Whew, I'm a little bit nervous about making this video. Let me tell you why. Over the last year or so, well, actually, let's go back to 2018. I started traveling by myself and visiting a country I just absolutely fell in love with, which was Japan. And I know, super original, right?
うるさいなあ、本当に。
Just like everybody else on YouTube. But it's also where I brought my first camera. And over the years since then, I developed a hobby and a passion for photography. And I just found myself going back constantly and taking better and better photos, never getting any real traction on the social media space. And yeah, I can probably chalk that up to maybe a lack of effort on my part on putting myself out there. But I never felt good enough to sort of ride with the other folks who are just amazing at what they do. So I thought today I'm going to put myself out there a little bit with one of the worst photo sessions I've ever had in all of my travels. My background was in night photography, which is challenging in itself, but when you switch from night to daytime, it's that much more challenging.
The light.
And I thought, well, screw it. I'm going to go into my pictures from January. I was in Okinawa, Fukuoka, and Tokyo. I'm just going to go ahead and make a video editing these pictures. They turned out absolutely terrible, just garbage. But I'm going to see if I can save a couple of them. And keep in mind, I haven't picked up a camera in, well, I picked up my camera in January, but lately I haven't felt the motivation to keep picking it up. So today I'm going to try and see if there's anything interesting here that I can work with. And if you like photography, leave a comment down below. You can totally
burn my pics all you want.
You can give me kudos if you like what you see, if there's something there that you would have done differently. I want to hear about that down below. And let's see what we can make on these images here. So I'm just going to screen record and I'm going to start filming and let's see what we got. Again, I'm going to remind you, these are some terrible, terrible photos out of practice, out of motivation and inspiration, but maybe you got to be in the depths a little bit to find your way out and get motivated. Again, I'm going back to Japan in May, end of this month. So this might be a good chance for me to be like, okay, Brett, pick it up again. Let's go. All right, I'm going to screen record and I'm going to start editing. So follow along with me. All right, so I've got my images up here now that we're going to take a look through. And you know, at first glance, I don't hate the colors that I'm seeing right now. I mean, these blues, look at them. They're stunning. They're beautiful. There's my girl there in Okinawa. What a beautiful city. So I love gritty, sort of dirty places. Japan is not that, but there's areas that kind of have that dystopian sort of junkyard aesthetic in the back alleys. And I was completely out of my element here in Okinawa because it's so beautiful. Look at this water. It's just like absolutely stunning. And I was just shooting from the hip. I thought, I'm not gonna calculate every shot this time. I'm just gonna be present, take pictures and see if I see anything that I like. And some which are maybe technically not good photos, there's an ambience about them or a atmosphere that I really loved. And I'm gonna try and see if we can work with those a little bit. I took a lot of pictures this time, but I mean, geez, look at this. That's some color right there. That was a absolutely beautiful. Like, I don't even want to edit that picture. You know what I mean? But let's keep going. Let's go back to the images here and see what we can find. I'm so out of practice. I've forgotten how to view my album. Okay, I'm just gonna do a quick sweep over the images. Man, this little America town in Okinawa was pretty interesting. But I love the era of like 1980s Japan, where you'd have these beer commercials. It's like the Showa era, I think, and you'd have this super blue sky with these really beautiful, just orange beer. And look at this water. I was just like, I was in heaven. I just had to keep that memory in my mind. I like these little coconuts by the water. But so far, nothing here is really talking to me, you know what I mean? We'll find something though. Let's keep it going. Highly recommend it if you ever go to Okinawa. There's a place called Zamami Island, which is absolutely beautiful. Shooting on my Fuji. I tried a new recipe as well, which I kind of like, but I also kind of felt like, nah, maybe it's not what I'm looking for exactly. That's a cool Gundam thing. So, okay, we're gonna start this edit over because I didn't like where I obviously was going with that, but let's see here. Oh, fuck. Okay, so what I like to do, first of all, is kind of zoom around a little bit. Got a lot of noise in this picture, which I'm a fan of. But I love the shadows and the colors in this image. Everything kind of is balanced quite nicely. So first thing I'm gonna do is maybe straighten this a little bit. That's better. And then I'm gonna crop it. Everyone loves to, do I do a 1x1 or do I, for Instagram? No, I don't. I like to do a 16:9 most of the time. Find it's a little bit more cinematic, but it has to match the photo. That probably won't work for this image. So do we do 4x5? Give it a little foreground. Just want it to look. I want to capture the. Scale of this robot amongst these people here. But I also don't necessarily like having all the people. I find them a bit distracting in the shot. But this is a good chance for me to sort of try out some of the new tools that are available to me as well. Because of the images that I've got from this recipe, I don't know if I want to go for a colder or a warmer image. I'm feeling kind of a nostalgic tint with this one, so I probably want to go a little warmer, just a little bit warmer. And sometimes I'll max out the sliders a little bit just to kind of see where I want to sit. A lot of my images I like to be a little bit on the darker shadows and warmer side. And I like some depth in my dark parts. See how effective this remove tool is. Not good at all. That's okay. People are enjoying their time there, so let's just stay with this for now. Let's grab the subject, and it's not perfect, of course. I'm gonna lighten that up a little bit and give it a little bit more texture and depth. Keep it kind of dramatic. Not too hard on the blacks, but just enough to make it feel like there's, you know, depth to this outfit. And I'm not going to play with the temperature at all. I think the temperature's fine as is. And I actually don't mind the curves the way they are, to be honest. Sometimes with this camera, you just It might not be for everybody, but for me, a lot of the images are really nicely balanced. Just kind of decide less clarity. I kind of like less texture because it kind of gives you a little bit of a halation almost. And I always mess around with every slider that's on the here, just in case I miss something that might be just what it needs. I'm not a super particular editor, you know? I just really go for feel over anything else. And I love to capture a little bit of the sky in the image. So I like to play around max dark, max high, and just kind of bring it back a little bit. Bring some of that blue back into the sky. And the shadows a little bit. Going for kind of like an end of day feel here. I'm probably gonna recrop the image a bit as well. Not that much halation. That looks terrible like that, but this one's not bad. Just like that. Dehaze is something you gotta be really careful with. It's either, even the slightest touch can make all the difference, but I don't think it's gonna be a big impact on this one. Now this suit has a really beautiful color, like a paint job on it. So I want to honor the reds, the blues, and the yellows, but not go overboard. And just kind of give it a little bump. Let's check out these a little bit here. Everyone loves to do an S curve, but I don't think you need to limit yourself to that. I think that's such a cool suit we got here. So while I'm feeling like there's some nostalgic feels to this color, I want to give it kind of, do I want the faded nostalgia or do I want the freshly painted, like Transformers poppin' colors, right? So I'm going to play with a little bit of both. And I find that when you start getting into this area of the orange or the yellows, it kind of gives it that sunshine at the end of the day feel. But I also might want to just bring it back a little bit in certain areas too. You never really know until you find that combination that just sits nicely with you, with your eyes. And I like this so far. The hue, I'm going to leave the same because I really like the way those colors are sitting. And the luminance, it's the end of the day. I don't want it to be unnaturally bright, but I also like the feeling of it being kind of popping a bit. So maybe give it kind of like a sun-kissed hue here and there. Oh, that green's pretty nice though. In the eyes, you see that? Kind of make him bright. No, see, this is where when you're playing with the sky can really mess with the whole image quite a lot. So I'm not even going to touch the blue. I think that's nice the way it is. Now, if you really want to kind of go for stylized, you can mess with these tones a bit. But for me, it might just lean a little bit kind of, I can't decide if I want this to become more purpley blue, or sometimes you don't have to do anything, you just leave it as is, and that's okay. But still play with them just to see if something stands out as effective. No need there. I don't mess with super resolution ever. I never sharpen my image because social media will generally do that for you. And wasn't that interesting? No Fuji profile. That's okay. We get by just fine without that. Give it a little bit of a vignette. I like the look of that. Not too heavy, just enough to kind of put your subject right where it needs to be for your eyes. Boom, great. No, okay, not gonna go that heavy. But I will zoom in a little bit. Just give it a little bit of grain because it gives me that feeling. Sometimes I really love the look of like really heavy grain. But for this, I think we're just gonna go right about here. But definitely not messing with these ones either. I could bring them into a more pastel kind of shape, kind of color, but I don't think it's necessary. I love pastels, but when you're going into like a grittier sort of, actually, you know what? I actually don't hate this. Not that heavy, but just a little kiss. Just right about there. Sometimes you can just really over edit images. So what I like to do is do one pass and then come back to it later. Maybe give it a little, oops, not that. Maybe give it a little bit of one of these on the bottom. Point is to emphasize that the sun is coming over the building. You can see the line there. And I want to just kind of have him kind of revealing with the sun, with the shape of the sun. And if I kind of go up like this, it's too high, but right around here is okay. You could kind of go like this, but I think that that's too much. Now this is a single pass, but I think I need to recrop this. I don't feel great about the image where it is right now. Everyone loves this. Might not be even a great image to work with, to be honest with you. But I don't hate it. And if I draw this down a little bit where the foreground is a little bit larger, I think it makes the mech look more imposing. So don't be afraid to mess around with your, with your crop after the fact. So for now, I'm gonna put this as a 1. I'm happy, but I'm gonna come back to that a little later. So the other thing I like to do as well is I don't like to edit every image in the same style. For me, the photo's got to match the atmosphere. I don't want to force an atmosphere onto any one photo in particular. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking through, and it's kind of like music. Tell me if you kind of do this too. I'll listen to music sometimes while I edit, and the sound kind of dictates how I edit. Maybe it creates an emotion or some sort of a color in my mind that I'm inspired to put into the photo. So let's keep looking through here and see what we can find. And like I said before, a lot of these images really turned out shit because I was not focused on focus. I wasn't focused on composition. I was just kind of shooting from the hip wherever felt right and thought, yeah, if they turn out, they turn out. If not, then so be it. But perhaps you get lucky once in a while. And I really love buildings and architecture and sort of the end of the day, the magic hour when everything's kind of purple and I guess some people love the golden hour, but for me, it's more about the pink and purple skies that I love so much. So let's keep going. Oh, I remember this more. This was a morning walk. I'm thinking close to 5 a.m. in, was this Sendai or Fukuoka? I think this was Fukuoka. And I used a pastel recipe, which in hindsight wasn't super pumped on. But 大丈夫でしょ? There's some really beautiful like beaches out there, and I loved it so much out there. And sometimes I get really inspired by the weirdest things, like this image right here. It's going to develop. I haven't even touched this one yet, but I'm a fan of this picture. But I want to go into the raw file, and let's start from fresh. The thing that I really loved growing up in the 90s was a lot of action movies had this kind of like a washed out, hard tone. Like if you watch Point Break or something, just the view of the city, the colors, kind of washed out, kind of, I don't know, dusty even. And I always said to myself, I want to make an image that just kind of feels like early 90s LA, right? Wherever in the world I might be taking the photo. So I always take a picture of a palm tree, just as a starting point. And I loved this one because it's got a nice sense of movement going through it right here. Like you can kind of see it's kind of being swept this way ever so gently. This leaf's kind of blowing back a bit. They kind of all go in this direction a little bit. They're kind of leaning the same way. And, I loved the Fuji because it gave me some options to work with, some profiles. But I could never settle on the one, But I feel like for this one, I kind of want to go with either a classic neg or a classic chrome, but man, classic chrome gets used so much by everybody. Man, let's just go with the classic negative. Okay, now we're going to go through and kind of see if we can get that late 90s kind of Point Break feel. And I'm going to come back to these. I do one pass, then I come back. I want to say too, like, I think one of the reasons why I never felt like I really fit in with other photographers is because I don't take images of the same things I see other people taking images of. Street photography is a very personal thing, but I feel like it's kind of lost its identity as something that's unique to each individual. You get the same pictures of the same people walking around, the same streets, same cities, and I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me anymore. I want to take a picture of the weird alleyway, where there's some stuff all just piled up and garbage, and ignore the street a little bit. It's not to say I don't take photos of the streets anymore, people. I think it's important to get that practice in, but I just feel like everyone's style is kind of merged into similar. No one really has a voice anymore, so I try to do it from an angle of noticing the things that maybe other people don't notice. And this is not a good example of that because I'm sure everyone's taken a picture of a palm tree, but I just want to maybe look up a little bit when everyone's looking ahead. And does that make me a good photographer? No, not at all. Do I connect with other people based on my images? Based on my experience? Not really. But maybe you're watching and you're thinking, this guy's he's got a kind of feel that you're kind of vibing with, right? And if that's the case, I'm happy to have you here. And leave a comment down below if my images make you feel anything. If the slight touches of this little S-curve here give you a little angry emotion because you hate it, or a happy emotion because you're kind of vibing with what's going on. I love this texture in this tree. which is funny because in a little while, I'm going to reduce a lot of that texture. This green isn't really making a big difference visually, but the histogram is going a little crazy. And this is more of a sky. I love that sky. Look at that little gradient from light to dark towards the top. That's exactly one of the things I love about daytime photography with kind of tropical feeling. So that's nice to me. You don't want to overcomplicate your photography either, you know? Just a little nudge in a direction that you want to go. It'll be our little secret, you know? Sorry, my Bob Ross impression. But, you know, in an evening shot like this, I want to get the subject. So the sky, let's see how good that's pretty good. Okay, that's a pretty good vibe there. So tell me if you know what I'm talking about when I say this, but to me, as a kid, you know, I grew up, I mentioned this a million times before, but 90s and late 80s, and everything was California, California all the time. Saved by the Bell or bands and music, and the sunscreen was super bright colors and sunshine, sunshine, sunshine. And because of that nostalgic sort of, I guess, flavor I have towards color, a lot of it is based on the 90s. And oh, that's a little bit of aberration or something going on around the edges here. Let's just see. It's not terrible, but I'm loving this sort of like coloration we got going on here. This kind of teal with a little bit of purple in it. Maybe hard to notice at first, but just a little touch, just a little bit. I love what's going on in this picture right now. Just kind of bring the saturation down a little bit. I'm just trying to give it a taste. Okay, let's see if this makes much of a difference with our image. Darkens it a little bit. I do like the darkness up here. I want to keep the highlights at the bottom. And kind of see that does nothing. This S curve, bringing that up, bring it down a bit. Keep that almost like a vignette on the one side. Okay, so we're gonna look at the texture a little bit. I want to bring that down just a touch. Okay, just a touch. It's not super noticeable, but if we kind of go here, let's just bring it all the way down. Do a comparison. Just gives it some glow around the edges, which I don't really want that heavy of. Not a huge difference. Just a little around the edges. I get this is the sky. I'm just trying to see how it affects the edges if I mess with that stuff. So let's go with the subject. Now we can kind of mess with the texture a bit of the actual tree itself. It's not perfect, you know, what's going on in there, but all I'm doing right now is working with the texture. So if we bring that down, just kind of soften it up a little bit, right? That's nice. Clarity, I don't want that, of course, and I don't want this. I think a picture is actually served better when you reduce the clarity just a touch, take away some of those harsh colors. Just kind of like, just a little kiss, just like that. And there's no need to dehaze this image at all. It's just so you can see what it does. There's nothing to work with there that requires that tool. It's getting dark in here, huh? Beautiful day outside. It's 20 degrees right now. It should be 27. I'm gonna go for a walk after this. And the sharpness slider, again, you don't really, in my opinion, need it that much. You bring the clarity down and then you bring the sharpness up. Yeah. Sometimes it might call for it, but for now, not so much. I actually don't think I need to do much else with this image. Even a crop, I don't think would serve it. Let's see a 16 by 9, give it a little bit of a cinematic flair. It's too big of a tree to do 16 by 9. And there's a lot of empty space, so I feel like it's imbalanced that way, but I may be wrong. This doesn't do anything for me either. So do I do a half? Do I do like this? Do I do like this, right in the middle? I don't know. I like it kind of looking up, you know, this empty space here. This fills up a good portion of the image, but I kind of like the empty space over here. Technically, no, not a good choice. But personally, when I put this, here, let me show you. When I put this into Photoshop and I give it a border, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. It kind of, border makes everything better, as far as I'm concerned. I will just do white. I think that makes the world of difference, and I'd be happy to export this and post it and even put that on my wall. Like I said, it's not a perfect image in terms of technicality or maybe space use, but for me, it's a pleasing image to the eye, and I'm pretty sure if I like it, maybe someone else will too. I am looking forward to hearing your feedback and maybe some thoughts on what you think about my taste. But this has been fun. I'd love to do more of these, and feel free to reach me anytime on Instagram, Brett_Ray.arw. I'll leave the link in description. And if you like the content, follow, like, subscribe. Let's get a conversation going. My normal content is gaming, but lately I've just been feeling like I need to get back into the hobbies of, you know, the passions that I feel productive on. And I think we all need a little reset once in a while. So if you like this, I hope you did. Stick around. Let's do some more of these videos in the future. Let me know if you want to see more editing pictures videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.